Hello everyone, welcome back to the delivery optimization series. This is the second part of the series, and in the first part, we discussed about the basics of delivery optimization. Um, I try to give you a quick overview of what is delivery optimization and how it how it works, and what are the basic concepts. What were my own observations when I tried to leverage delivery optimization in my lab, right? So in this video, we are going to talk about the flow, the workflow, because we already discussed what is delivery optimization, why the need of the series. We haven't discussed prerequisites for delivery optimization yet. I'm planning to cover that just before we can dive into the log analysis for the UUP workflow. Um, Things that DO supports, we already talked about this in the last video that DO as of now only supports updates in SCCM. Okay. Um, so in this video, we are mainly going to talk about the workflow. Okay. The the the, the conventional workflow and the UUP workflow. In this video, we are only going to discuss about the conventional flow, and probably I'll create a separate video for the UUP flow. So we will discuss about what is the conventional flow first, and then when we will talk about the UUP workflow, you will yourself come to know that what's the difference and how delivery optimization comes into the picture. All right. Um, okay, let's begin. So I am in Paint, and in Paint I'm going to draw the complete workflow for the conventional flow for updates. That is before UUP came into the picture. All right. So first thing, so let's say this is my client machine on which I am going to deploy the update, and this is going to basically my workstation, and I have a management point as well. Okay, from which this device is going to receive the deployment policy. So in SCCM, we know that when as soon as we create a policy, a deployment policy for the device, uh, by default, every device reaches out to the management point every 60 minutes or every 1 hour to fetch the new deployment policies. And when this client machine is going to reach out to the management point, it's going to receive the deployment policy for the update that probably an admin has deployed on it. So the machine is going to reach out to the management point. And let's say this is a Windows 10 machine, okay? Because I'm going to assume that because since we are talking about the conventional flow where we are not going to see or we are not going to observe that delivery optimization is part of this flow. This is an ideal situation, and I am not using any caching technique here. This is a pure update workflow where the complete content will be downloaded from a distribution point, and this is on Windows 10. Okay, this flow is going to be applicable on a Windows 10 machine and on Windows 11 machines as well that are prior to, I think, March 2022. All right. So let's say this device reached out to the management point and it received the deployment policy. So machine got the deployment policy from the management point. So what is the next component, or what is the main component that downloads these deployment policies? So there is a component on a client machine, on a machine that is managed via SCCM, and the name of that component is policy agent. Okay, and the corresponding log file where we can see its activity is policy agent.log. So this this policy agent is the main component that is going to handle the download of the deployment policy from the management point. And as soon as it receives the deployment policy, it's going to let the one of the other components know that we have received a new deployment policy, and the name of that component is schedule. So there is a component by the name schedule, and what it does is it notes down whether the deployment that is made to this device is required or available, and if required, then what is the deadline time and what is the software available time. And whatever would be the deadline time, it will keep a note of it, and whenever the deadline will be reached, it is going to trigger the deployment. So the main job of schedule is to activate the deployment whenever the deadline reaches. For available deployments, it does not have a major role to play, but for required deployments on the deadline, as soon as the deadline is reached, it's going to trigger the activation of the deployment. Okay, so let's say that I have deployed the update as required, and I have set the deadline as 10 a.m. tomorrow. So what's going to happen next? So schedule is going to talk to one of my other component on the client machine, and that component is updates deployment agent basically. And the corresponding log file for that agent is updates deployment.log. So what is update deployment agent going to do? So as soon as the deployment needs to be activated, as I said, schedule makes a note of the deadline time, and as soon as the deadline is reached, provided that the maintenance window is active during that time, it triggers the deployment activation to updates deployment agent, and the corresponding log file is updates deployment.log. In this log file, we will be able to see that a deployment activation trigger has been received, and an update is needs to be installed on the device as per the policy created by the admin. But um, updates deployment agent, uh, before it really proceeds with the deployment, it needs to identify, because this is the main component. Updates deployment agent is the main component that is going to handle the complete deployment process on the device. So before it can actually download and install an update, it's going to first of all identify whether the update that is deployed on this device is really applicable to it, or whether the device really needs this update which the admin has deployed, or whether the device no longer needs it. Okay, so let's say if the device already has that update, so it's not going to re-download and reinstall it. Okay, so first of all, it's going to check whether the update that has been deployed by the admin on this machine is applicable to it. And in order to do that, it's going to trigger a scan basically. See, we all know that SCCM admins are humans, and humans can make errors, right? So it's possible that an admin can deploy a Windows 10 update to a collection of which a server can also be a part of. Okay, so in device collections in SCCM, if we have not explicitly created any query rule or something, uh, a server and a workstation both can be part of the same collection, right? So it can be done by a mistake or anything, that the admin deploys a Windows 10 update to a collection of which a server operating system is also a part of. So a server can also receive that deployment policy, right? And uh, the server really needs to know that whether that update is needed on it or not. So of course, uh, of course, that is the reason that this is in place here. The process is in place. Which process? Which is to identify whether the update is really applicable on this device, because we don't want to face any enforced installations, or we don't want any unexpected update or unwanted update to be installed on the device, right? Which is not supposed to be installed on this device, or which is not intended for this device. So updates deployment agent is then going to identify whether the update is really applicable on this device, and how it is going to do it is it's going to trigger a scan on the device, and for triggering the scan, it's going to reach out to my scan agent. The scan agent is one another component on my workstation. This is also a SCCM component, the SCCM client agent component, and one of the parent component that handles the scan process. So updates deployment agent is going to reach out to the scan agent, and it's going to ask it that can you please run a scan and identify what all updates are needed on this device as of this moment. Okay, and that's how updates deployment agent is going to identify that the update that was deployed on this device by the admin is really applicable to it or not. So it's going to ask scan agent to perform a scan, and it's going to ask it that can you please run a scan and share the results with me, and then it's going to check that result, and it's going to match whether the update that was deployed by the admin is part of that result and whether the update is applicable. So now what scan agent is going to do is, first of all, it's going to identify what all software update points are available in the environment from where the device can perform a scan against, right? Because in an SCCM environment, the scan happens against WSUS servers and software update points rather than the device reaching out online to scan against Microsoft Cloud. So scan agent needs to first of all know that uh, what all are the SUPs or software update points available in my environment from where the device can scan against. And for that, it's going to reach out to one other component on the device, which is location services. And it's going to tell location services that can you please identify what all are the software update points available from which the device can scan against. This location services is going to reach out to the management point for that, and it's going to reach out to the management point via CCM messaging. So CCM messaging is a component on my client machine which directly talks with my management point. So any communications, I would say 99% of the communications that happens between a client machine and a management point is handled by CCM messaging. We can say 100% as well, but I'm just uh, considering 99%, assuming that there could be some scenario which I'm not aware of. Okay, okay. Next, so let's say location services uh, reached out to the management point via CCM messaging, and it asked the management point that can you please share the possible SUPs of the WSS server names from which this device can perform a scan against. Then the management point is going to run a couple of stored procedures against this SQL database that we utilize for SCCM. It's going to run a couple of queries against the site database to identify what all are the software update points that the machine can scan against. And it returns that list back to CCM messaging, and then CCM messaging gives the result back to location services, and it hands over the list back to scan agent. And this is how scan agent comes to know that okay, these all are the possible SUPs, the software update points from which the device can scan against. And once it gets to know about the locations of those software update points, it is going to ask another component on my machine that the name of that component is WUA handler. WUA stands for Windows Update Agent, and this is one of the SCCM components that directly uh, commands or operates the Windows Update agent on a device. Okay, scan agent is going to talk to WUA handler, and it's going to ask it that can you please ask Windows Update agent to perform a scan against one of these software update points. So then the Windows Update agent handler is going to tell WUA, that is my Windows Update agent, that can you please perform a scan against one of the software update points. And that is why I have drawn another server here indicating that this is my software update point, and also my WSS server, of course, because every WSS server or every software update point has a WSS server, a WSS role on it as well. They exist together, they do not exist separately. So then the Windows Update agent performs a scan against the SUP, my software update point, and then it hands over the result back to WUA handler, and W handler hands over the result back to scan agent, and then scan agent hands over the result back to updates deployment agent. This is how the scan completes, and this is how updates deployment agent comes to know that the update is applicable on the device. Okay, so what next? What happens next? After the updates deployment agent identifies that okay, that this update is really applicable on the device and the device still needs it, it the scan portion is complete. So the next phase is the download. So it is going to ask one of the SCCM client components to initiate the download, and the name of that component is updates handler. So updates deployment agent is going to reach out to updates handler, and it's going to ask it that can you please initiate the download of for this update. Okay, and uh, updates handler is then going to reach out to one of the other components on my client machine, that is content access service, that is CAS. I am writing the complete name of the component here just so that you don't confuse it with central administration site. So central administration site is something else, and this is a core client component. Okay, so I know that there are a lot of components involved here, and things does not just work directly when it comes to SSCM. There are a lot of components involved. Even in this workflow, there are, if I talk about the more deep dive level, there are a couple of more components that can be involved in this workflow here, but it's not that important to discuss those components. So that is why I have shortened or I have shrinked this workflow a bit, and I'm only discussing the main components involved, which we cannot skip when it comes to troubleshooting. Okay, so content access service updates handler is going to reach out to content access service, and I would say content access service is the main parent component that deals with the download process. Just like we had scan agent here that deals with the complete scan process, we have CAS, that is content access service, that deals with the download process of the files. And what it monitors the progress of the download, and it also performs an integrity check once the download is complete. It performs a hash verification of the files once they get downloaded, and it makes sure that whatever content is downloaded is not compromised. Okay. So content access service is reached out by updates handler, and then content access service creates a job for CTM. The full form is content transfer manager. It creates a job for CTM and it asks it to download the content for the update. Okay, and CTM, content transfer manager, is then going to perform first of all a discovery of all the distribution points from where the machine can download the content. So because since the client needs to download the content, it needs to first of all become aware what all are the distribution points that it can reach out to in order to download the content. So uh, content transfer manager creates uh, a location request, and it sends the location request to location services. Okay, and again location services forwards that request to the management point via CCM messaging, and then the management point runs again a couple of stored procedures against the site database, the SQL database, and returns the list of distribution points from where the machine can download the content from. The management point returns the result back to location services. The location services shares the result back with CTM, that is content transfer manager, and then the CTM creates a job for DTS. So there is another component on my workstation that the name of the component is data transfer service. This is the component that directly talks with my distribution point and downloads all the content from. But it leverages a core Windows service in order to download the content, and the name of that service is bits. Okay, you may or may have not heard the name of this component. The complete name of the component is Background Intelligent Transfer Service. If you open services.msc on any Windows machine, you will see the service over there. So this is a core Windows service. This has no dependency on SSCM client agent. So even if you have a machine on which SSCM client is not there, you will still find the service because this is a core Windows service, not an SSCM component or SSCM service. But SSCM leverages this service in order to download the bits and pieces from the distribution point. So my data transfer service is going to talk to my distribution point. So I have created another server here and I've written DP here so that I can show you that, okay, this is my distribution point server and my data transfer service is going to talk to my distribution point and it's going to download all the content from the distribution point via bits. Okay, and it's going to store all the content in a folder named CCM cache. So on a Windows device that is managed by SCCM, there is a folder under C Windows. The name of the folder is CCM cache, and DTS stores all the downloaded content in CCM cache. All right. So this is the download portion, and this is the conventional update workflow that is still followed on Windows 10 devices. So if you are, or even if we talk about Windows servers, okay, if you are managing Windows servers via SCCM and if you are deploying patches on Windows Server operating system machines, so this is the workflow that is followed on Windows servers and Windows 10 machines, and even on Windows 11 um, 22H2 build that is prior to March 2022, I believe. So this is the workflow that is followed on all the builds and operating system that I just mentioned. Okay, so this is the conventional flow, and as you can see that delivery optimization is not mentioned anywhere here, and it's not a part of this workflow. Again, if we want delivery optimization to be a part of this flow, we can explicitly configure it. Uh, and we can leverage delivery optimization as well, but in Windows 10 and Windows Server operating systems, it is optional. It's not, I mean, it's not necessary that we will have to use delivery optimization. But on the latest Windows 11 machines, specifically 23H2 and 24H2 versions, um, delivery optimization is an integral part of the flow, and we are going to talk about that flow in the next video. So this is the conventional flow. If you have any questions related to this flow, and if you have any feedback, or you want to talk about something, you can feel free to comment. And in the next video, I'm going to show you what is the workflow that is followed by the Windows 11 latest builds, and how delivery optimization is an integral part of that workflow. Okay. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you.